Welcome back to the Junius Malpe channel. Thanks for joining us. Let's take a look at precious metals coin production in the COVID-19 era, in the era of the plague. As you all know, we've been printing off massive amounts of fiat currency. Every nation has been doing so, and we've been discussing the devaluation of those currencies, which will eventually, and has been so far, driving the prices of these metals upwards as they're priced in these fiat currencies being mass-produced at will by governments around the world. Specifically, we're going to focus, of course, on the United States dollar, the U.S. dollar, and this is actually staggering. This article was emailed to me by the wonderful and beautiful field reporter, Mrs. Malpe. And she said, of course, in a very nice way, you should probably do a video on this, because I was predisposed doing other things today when she sent it to me. So let's take a quick look here and discuss these things, read through it, look at some of the graphs and the charts and whatnot. Gold and silver have played an important role in money throughout history. Unlike modern currencies, they can't be created out of thin air and derive their value from their scarcity. During the era of the plague, the difference has become more prominent as countries print vast amounts of currencies to support their suffering economies. This graphic by Texas Precious Metals highlights the value of the U.S. precious metals coin production and compares it to the U.S. money creation. The infographic calculates the value of money supply added, as well as bullion minted, and divided it by the U.S. population to get the total production per person. Here's how the January-September 2020 data breaks down. You can see the total ounces on the left, the dollar value in the middle, and the dollar value per person on the right. U.S. gold ounces, 826,000 ounces, about $1.6 billion. Per person, it's about $4.79. U.S. Silver Eagles, silver ounces, 22,261,500, about $1.65 per person. And that's about $544 million worth of silver. Now look at the U.S. money supply, $3.4 trillion. That's $10,250 per person. And then, of course, you have to look at the debt, which we talk about quite often here. The U.S. debt accumulated this year was $3.8 trillion, and that's $11,578 and some change per person. Now, metals production sitting about average. The issuance of U.S. dollars tells a different story. Over the last 9 months, the U.S. has already added 400% more dollars to its money supply than it did in the entire 2019. And there's still 3 months to go in the year. Think about that for a moment, 400% more dollars in circulation. Now, of course, current economic conditions have been a catalyst for the ballooning money supply. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. government has issued over $3 trillion in fiscal stimulus. In turn, the U.S. Federal Reserve has increased the money supply by $3.4 trillion from January to September. Now, here you can see a chart of the U.S. money supply over time, and you can really see it just uptick there and balloon almost exponentially. Now remember, trillions are thousands of billions, and the amount of cash, the amount of money, the amount of fiat that is increasing and flooding the system compared to the amount of available gold and the amount of gold supply that increases is at this point in history absolutely staggering. It's unbelievable. Put another way, for every ounce of gold created in 2020, there have been $4 million US dollars added to the money supply. The question for those looking for safe haven investment is which of these will ultimately hold their value better over time? Now, if you're a member of the Junius Malpe channel, I think you know the answer to that question. Now take a look at this infographic closely that our friends, our Sound Money brethren, have put out. This is, again, the total production per person. The big green block you see there is the $10,250 of essentially money created. That's the expansion of the money supply, actual fiat paper out there. The debt you can see is the little dotted line that creates a translucent cube around the green. That's $11,578 per person, mind you. And down below, you can see the $4 and change for gold and the dollar and so change for silver. You can see very small, finite amounts of metal have been added to the supply, whereas the amount of fiat cash flooding the market and the amount of debt strangling and crushing the market far outweighs and surpasses any amount of metal added. This throws off and creates a significant imbalance, I believe, in the price discovery of the precious metals. Now, this should be a big eye-opener, especially for those that are big advocates of the silver maximalist idea of silver valuations. Now, there's only been $150,000 of cash printed per ounce of minted silver. However, when you look at this chart and the information, the data, and the metrics that are out there, there has been $4 million produced for every ounce of gold added to this system. So now, think of that. For every new ounce of gold minted in the United States, the Federal Reserve added $4 million to the money supply. Now, part of this could be just minting populations demand different mint products and such. However, I do believe there is an overwhelming supply availability of silver, which made this possible, made that mint supply available, as well as perhaps even demand for the products themselves. This, with gold, this $4 million in cash per ounce of gold minted really shows you that there's something, I guess you could say, amiss. And eventually gold and silver both are going to have to catch up to the amount of fiat that is now awash. It's a deluge, as if a dam has been breached. There's that much currency out there. This interesting graphic shows us the amount produced per day per state. You can see 61 ounces of gold. You can see, and this is currently, silver about 1,631 ounces. And then you see that in 2020, the issuance of new U.S. dollars has substantially increased in response to we'll just call it the plague. And as you can see, the U.S. dollar chart skyrockets, completely defying the norm. Nothing compares to the new increase in the new issuance of U.S. dollars, 255 million per day. Look at that chart. There's nothing really, even in the past, that compares to it. This is an extreme amount of new fiat hitting the marketplace every single day. This is really nothing news to any of you, to me. It's one of those things, we may not have known the exact number. We might not have known the exact amount of ounces. We didn't need charts or graphs, infographs. We didn't need statistics to tell us this was happening. It's pretty obvious. And I think the market eventually, once we can separate it from the obvious amount of manipulation that exists out there, with the major banks doing the things that they do, the Fed and the Treasury conspiring to do the things that they do, at some point, at some time, precious metals are going to violently react to these numbers, to these measurements. They're going to find real values. Right now, I would say the values of them are so significantly discounted that it's laughable. I mean, even when you look at silver, $24, $25 an ounce, when you compare it to the amount of fiat that's flooding the market per person every single day. It's incredible. It is. I mean, this infographic for me this morning was actually staggering. When you look at the amount of fiat hitting the market for gold, $4 million per ounce of gold. I mean, you have to be kidding me. I mean, you look at the amount of gold that exists. You look at the amount that the supply increases, the limitations placed upon it, the costs of mining, what it takes to get an ounce of gold out of the ground, the human labor, the effort, the infrastructure, the logistics, all of it, the fuel. Again, that alone is staggering. And of course, it's easy to just create money out of thin air. And I even wonder how much of this they even print, how much of this U.S. dollars just exists behind a screen. Because, of course, they're discussing now the digitization, making the U.S. dollar digital. Again, they'll be, I guess at that point, limitless in their capabilities of expanding the money supply and absolutely devaluing and destroying the US dollar. So just keep all of this in mind. Keep your eyes on all of this. Keep stacking precious metals confidently. I mean, if you need to come back to this channel every once in a while, you know there's a lot of motivation. I've done video after video motivating you guys and helping to lift up those in the precious metals community that might at times experience doubt in their decisions to purchase or acquire precious metals for the long term, preservation of their wealth. Well, I don't think you need to doubt it. I think you need to be confident, hold your head up high, keep looking at these things, looking at the news, look at the clowns, the freak show that is Washington, D.C. Look at Congress, the ignorance, the apathy, the incompetence that exists in those halls of government, and realize that you are not only a step ahead, but you are educated and brilliant in making the strategic and tactical moves that you are in separating and shielding your wealth from the thieving hand of inflation and currency devaluation. You're doing good. You're doing well. Keep doing it. And as always, thanks for tuning into this channel, being part of the Junius Maltby channel. I appreciate each and every one of you, your support, your words of encouragement to myself and Mrs. Maltby for just even her health and what goes on in our personal world. Thank each and every one of you. So take care and have a good rest of your day and keep stacking.